Hopefully this goes okay. I'm stuck in traffic right now. Um, Headed to Dallas, and I'm on I-45. I'm about 2 hours out, and a lot of delays. I mean, this is the Sunday after Thanksgiving, so it makes sense. People headed back, whatnot. I may not be able to see chat in this. You'll have to forgive me. I look a little bit rough. Also, my dentures are, they're being a pain right now. But I had a really good Thanksgiving. Even played some Pokemon Scarlet, which was great. And this is a bit of an unplanned vlog because I wanted to talk about a few things. I wanted to acknowledge something that I really haven't dived into, because honestly, I don't think I've been brave enough to. But I'm sitting here thinking, and there's a book I've been reading by Richard Dawkins, and it touches on a certain subject that I'm not really I don't really talk about a whole lot, but it's my channel, it's my views in life, my gaming, my hobbies, and whatnot. And what it touches on is religion. And for those that don't know, my past, being brought up, I was raised in Christianity. I was raised in a religious household through a lot of factors in my life. And now at 37 years old, with everything I've been through, I lean towards more of an acceptance of the universe as is, than more of a faith-based reality or part of reality. I rely more on facts and evidence than I do on having faith in a hierarchy to a supernatural order in the universe. I believe more in an energy of the universe than I do a supernatural hierarchy. To put it one way, I'm agnostic. So, in a nutshell, it's taken me a long road to get here, to realize that. And I'm not. When I say agnostic is basically the belief that you can't really prove there is a God, but you can't really prove there isn't a God either, or some sort of a spiritual basis or whatnot. Of course, the word atheist, I don't really qualify as atheist, because atheists all around tend to believe, in a general sense, that there's no supernatural at all. Me, I believe in the supernatural. With that said, I believe in, ghosts, the potential of Bigfoot, the potential of aliens, so on and so forth. And I'll tell you why. It's because in my time mentally, I believe in the energy of the universe, and I believe in that energy of the universe, that much like other civilizations throughout human history, specifically Indian, our ancestors are always still with us on an energy-based plane. Because I'm also a big believer in the multiverse, and I'm letting out a lot here. I'm giving a lot of insight into my own mind and what I believe, what I don't, and this is, of course, just all coming from my own personal point of view. Like I said, I can't prove any of this, but it makes sense to me logically, that the supernatural is just an unyet, unexplored, unfully tapped scientific basis for the things that may or may not exist. It's just personally hard for me to believe that there is, again, as I put it, a spiritual plane without scientific basis, and a hierarchy of power. And that, so basically what it's getting to is that, do I believe there's a God? I don't know. That's the thing. That's where the agnosticism comes in, is that I can't prove it, but I don't think people can actually prove that there is, Now, I don't doubt that there are miracles in life, obviously, and even the word miracle can sometimes be a bit of a misnomer, because even magic in and of itself is just an unknown technology in my book. What a lot of people, we have cell phones nowadays that record these, you have calculators, all kinds of magic in it. To somebody in the 80s, or to somebody even in the early 1800s, would have seemed like sorcery, or science at one point was considered evil, and the church contended with it and all kinds of stuff. There's so many things throughout human history that have shown that humanity tends to remain so willfully ignorant or very resistant to new information and new discoveries and new enlightenment, that it's scary. But with that, there's a lot of things that you can't just drop on humanity either. I mean, for example, aliens, right? I mean, biological beings on other planets make sense. It makes sense to me because look, I follow evolution. We evolved over millions of years, thousands of years, millions of years. And it just makes sense when you look at the increment of time. Now, do I believe that aliens intervened in humanity and mixed, got involved with it somehow? I think that's where I'm unsure. I don't know. There's a bunch of conspiracy theories. Obviously, I'm not very conspiratorial. Should be the right word. Yeah. Anyway, I honestly don't know. I mean, I wish there's a lot of evidence to suggest that there has been, but it tends to be more of a cover-up. There's a lot of countries around the world that acknowledge the existence of aliens. America doesn't really, because we're a bit of a superpower. I do believe in cover-ups. I mean, I believe that shit happens. But, so it's really hard to say. I don't personally know. I can't really answer that. But I do entertain those thoughts. I entertain those opinions and facts and whatnot that people present. I do watch editorials or read editorials on them. I watch documentaries on it, all these theories and ancient astronaut theory and whatnot. I do believe that there may or may not be civilizations out there that are extraterrestrial, or even interdimensional, that are older than our own by hundreds of thousands of years. I do believe that human beings, we are still evolving. We're not at the pinnacle of our evolution yet, if we ever get there. And I believe that there are things that hurry that along, such as our technology, the things we eat, the things we imbibe, the things we consume, both mentally and physically, energy-wise. I think our brains are adapting to things that we're not used to over generations, and we're eventually going to get there. But when it comes to the things about the afterlife, where do I lie on that? Personally, I've always considered myself, and I don't know if there's any other thing on this planet related to this or not. I know that it's a bit of a theory, but a bit of the Gaia theory. I believe that we are a part of something greater, but I don't believe personally in a higher power. We're a part of a network of energy, especially within the planet, and then outer within the universe. I do believe that we return to the planet, obviously, as on a molecular basis, or atomically, however you want to look at it. We return to the Earth to be a part of the land again, where we return to the energy of the planet. I contribute this to a lot of more than a couple of video games that have introduced me to this idea in my childhood, including Final Fantasy VII. And over the years, I've thought about this, and it's that the plot, that part of the story to where they're trying to save the planet, and of course the planet's trying to heal itself, and of course you can see examples of this in World of Warcraft as well when it comes to like trying to save Azeroth and whatnot. Now again, these are just story elements, but coming up as a kid, I've said this before and I'll say it again, video games and books and movies had a big impact on me, a lot bigger than religion ever did. So in some instance, these writings, these stories, much like the Bible is, and don't get me wrong, I'm not discounting the Bible. I do think it's a good book. I think there's a lot of moral lessons, a lot of teachings, but I do think, and there are three words that have changed my life when it comes to this: personification, symbolism, I forget the other one. I'm sorry, I'm driving, I'm concentrating, but two of those have been very, very important words that I learned: symbolism and personification. And you can look those up, but there's a lot of personification, especially in the human history, when it comes to not understanding something, and we apply our own human element, our own human essence into something that we don't understand. I mean, look at the Norse gods, the Greek gods, Roman gods. There's been so many religions throughout history that it's just so hard to know where everything falls. And of course, there's current day religions, systems of belief, churches, and unfortunately throughout humanity, there's also been a lot of con men and con people that take advantage of undereducated and poor folks, and people that struggle mentally, and they just want hope. So of course these people come along and take advantage of them and speak this really good talk this really good talk, the stuff that makes sense, but they're unfortunately led astray, and they give this stuff a bad example. And of course there's also tribalism that's arisen out of that, which has caused wars and violence and whatnot. But it's crazy, because again, that's where personification comes in, because the gods are this, the gods are that, my God demands this, my God demands that. And it's just like, you lose the humanity in what could be a greater society, a greater civilization. Personally, I take responsibility for my own life. I take responsibility for my own doings, for my own failures, successes, and whatnot. And I'm not going to blame, I'm not going to blame a god for that. It's on me.
There's a 5-minute slowdown in 3 miles. You are still on the fastest route.
I've been hitting slowdowns all day on I-45. It's crazy. But anyway, that again, just my views. I have dealt with this ever since I started the channel. I've wanted to do a video like this or a stream. Of course, I'm on the road, so some of this stuff may cut up. If if it does get messed up, I'll probably redo it at some point. But, it is what it is. But I felt brave today. I felt a bit empowered to talk about this, and let people know where I lie on certain subjects. And I may lose subscribers, so be it, but I've always wanted to be open and honest and give, especially people that think like I do, let them know that they're not alone in this, because in the world today, there's such a drive to make people feel bad for not believing the way that you think they should. They don't feel empowered to be who they are because they're indoctrinated. That was the third word, indoctrination. You're grabbed as a kid. You're introduced into these ideas as a kid, not knowing any better. And I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair at all to put this on a kid, to introduce them to. And here's where mentally I'm just like, okay, what is happening? As a kid, you're introduced to fairy tales. You're introduced to the Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny. You're introduced to all this and that. And then, you're told growing up it's not real, right? But then depending on your upbringing, especially in certain parts of the world and in the U.S. especially, you're taken to a social gathering where you're told, this is our beliefs, this is ancient teachings, and here's the in-between of you're always being looked after, and if you don't do right, you'll be eternally tortured. So where do you draw the line as a kid between believing in fairy tales and believing in religious dogma, or even comic books or movies? Or I had a family member that will remain unnamed because I prefer not to talk about them as much as I can help it, come at me about playing video games and reading comic books, and me as a kid thinking it's real, and then them coming after me telling me that it's not real, I shouldn't be wasting my time on this, all this and that. And yet this was a person that was very high up in a church, coming at me about all of this. And it's just, I'm like, so what's the difference between what you believe and what I wanted to believe? It's crazy. It's crazy. And I think I just froze, but I'm always, like I said, I think a man or a person's journey in life, not just men, but whoever you may be, there's always a journey. There's always a search for who we truly are. And when you're raised a certain way, you're challenged, and unfortunately in my case, I was mentally and physically abused to be a certain way. And thankfully, my parents were who they were. They were very open-minded, very, very cool with who I wanted to be. I wasn't forced one way or another on their part, but about a third of my childhood, somebody else took care of me. That unfortunately was a source of darkness in my life, and fear, and panic. In fact, I'm having to face nowadays panic attacks because of things in my childhood up until about 6-7 years ago. That the basis, again, a good chunk of that childhood was just taken away after repressed memories popped up on me, and now I'm mentally still dealing with the fallout. Challenges in my relationship, challenges in my friendships, challenges in my social life and work life, and whatnot. In some ways, I'm thankful, because if I had encountered this stuff later in life, I can encounter it earlier than what could have been, and deal with it. But when I was 15, 16, and my mother, who I loved to the end of the earth, I came to her one day and I said, "Do I have to believe as you believe?" In a nutshell. And she said, "No, you be who you are." And they always empowered me. I can never, especially my father. My father was a minister and a preacher, but he never forced me to follow in his footsteps. He never expected me to do so. He expected me to be who I was. And we always had these talks, just nine times out of 10 about, this and that, this compared to that, what if this, what if that, and he was who he was, and I am who I am, and I'm always going to be thankful for that, man. It was just amazing, and that's I just feel like I ran a marathon, but it's really cool doing this stuff. And again, I hope this video comes out right. I hope, just like every other video on this channel, maybe something I'm talking about helps you. Maybe you disagree with it, that's fine. I would caution you to avoid any kind of fanaticism when you approach people with your beliefs or with your, ideals or ideologies and political views, whatever it may be. Be understanding, be open, don't close yourself off. Don't force your, stuff on other people, especially if you have kids, if you have grandkids or cousins or, people you're trying to bring into the fold of what you believe may be able to help them. Present ideas, present, where you're coming from in a logical way, in a sympathetic way, empathetic way. Understand what they're going through. Don't take advantage of them, it's crazy because when you look at one example of, for example, prison culture, right? I mean, a lot of people that have been incarcerated, they're preyed upon by people looking to grow their groups. And of course, these people, they just want hope, man. I mean, they want a good chunk of them, not all of them, but a good chunk of them want to be able to, do their time and have something to look forward to, have something to help them. Because there's a lot of times in life where people, man, you give up on yourself, and of course you look for something else to help fill that hole. And unfortunately, in a lot of religions, when you're taught that, if you start relying upon yourself and thinking you can do something that God can't, or what your God or gods can't do, in my experience, that's, that tends to be called, like in my upbringing, that's Satan talking to you. And it's just like, you shouldn't be thinking that way. You shouldn't be, and I'm just like, so where does self-empowerment fall in this belief structure? Because if you can't believe in yourself, then, and it has to be all, all this and that, how do you, it's, in a lot of ways, it's a bit of a mind trap, because if you start thinking that way, especially as a kid, and you don't know any better, you don't have the experience to back it up, that's where you need somebody to talk to and really present what should be taught in a right way, and not just 100% reliant upon that mental factor of faith, but there should also be a lot and a good chunk that is all you as a human being. You know, live for who you are, while trying to spread a message. And that, if that's what you're trying to do, that's great. That's the way it should be done. But, you know, don't let it, unfortunately, there's just so many people that they just get caught up and they forget the humanity in it all. They forget people need help, people need hope, and they get taken advantage of and manipulated, and they don't know any better because, again, that's all they've known their whole life. That's all they've known, and anything outside of that is evil. Anything outside of that is wrong. You shouldn't be doing that, you know, and especially kids. Man, kids. I've seen examples of kids being, and every time I go at people about it, I've had my moments to where I even lashed out. Family members, I won't say how or who or what, but unfortunately they, you know, these kids were punished for, well, physically and mentally harshly, for even trying to be curious of something outside of their parents' belief structure. You know, and it's not fair. It is not fair at all for that to happen to a child. And I can't tell you how harsh that was. The multiple examples in my own childhood of doing that, of having that done to me. And, you know, I've dealt with relatives so far in my life. Of course, they know my story, and I've even dealt with people, and they hope that, you know, my father, who he was, and parts of my family, where they come from and what they grew up doing, they hope that maybe I'm some sort of prodigal son. But, you know, and if you don't know the story of the prodigal son, it's a son that in the Bible that left, came back to the family more empowered and a lot more caught up in his faith and whatnot. But personally, I never, from a young age, I never went that way. I played a role, you know. I played a role because of my child abuse. I was in survival mode. Because of the fear and the anxiety and the panic, and I didn't know what to do. So I did what I had to do to survive the person that was supposed to take care of me and was supposed to love me. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to shake off what was forced on me for a good chunk of my childhood, and what could have been a very earlier part in life where I could have realized more of who I am and probably been a bit more solid in certain ways, you know, especially in believing in who I am, which thankfully I'm realizing day after day of more of who I am and what I am mentally up here and in here. I know I'm a good guy. I've always known I'm a good guy. I'm always very curious. I'm always very intrigued, and especially with the way things work and systems and ratios and numbers. And I've had my moments to where I've mourned the kid that could have been, you know, that what he could have known, what he could have accomplished. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not doubting myself nowadays, but man, the stuff that could have been. Sorry, give me a minute here. Stuff that could have been explored, you know. And you know, there are other universes out there, other me's that probably have a more accomplished life or a less accomplished life, you know. I'm a big proprietor of the whole multiverse theory. I think it's totally plausible, to be honest, because there is, in my view, more and more coming to that proof. And again, it's just unexplored, and anything unexplained is just unexplored, you know, fully unexplored. I mean, we're just touching on it. I mean, look at mental health. Mental health, man, for the longest time, I think only in the recent, since Freud, we've only recently started understanding like how our brains work and the chemical imbalances and depression, anxiety, spectrum disorders and whatnot. And unfortunately for a lot of people, it's too late in life to even, even care or even want to try to change it. But, thankfully newer generations are becoming more and more accepted of it. And I will say this much. I am very proud of current generations. I know a lot of people that are older than me that are just like, oh, yada, yada, it's newer generation. Back in my day, all this and that. Look, that's always been and always will be, man. Old cranky people are just old and cranky. That's all it is. Back in my day was the best day, and that's all I'll ever care about. But I'm, like I said, I'm not exactly old yet, but I'm an old soul in some ways. And 37, about to be 38 here in about a month or so, and it's just, I reflect on my life, I reflect on everything, and I love who I am. I love what I'm capable of. For the most part, I have my dark spots, just like every other human being. But it's just amazing what we can accomplish when we realize who we want to be and who we are. Not to. I got about. I just. I don't want to be brave about this. About wow, these people coming off the. Wow, that's weird. I'll tell you, the holidays brings out some crazy folks.